Hey everybody, this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. The number to call in is 313-272-5600. You can also see me live on my Facebook page, that's Strategic Healing, and you can type in your questions there, your comments, or anything like that. And so this is a show on health, and we're talking about all things health. I'm your Natural Health Authority for Strategic Healing, that's my company. You can go to my website, strategichealing.us. See a lot of information there, and you can see pictures. And hey, we just had a baby lamb today. We had twins today this morning. My wife went out and checked the lambs because we got a lot of pregnant animals, and we know it was any day now, and we woke up and two healthy baby lambs. And so we're really excited, and we're probably going to have more tomorrow and then the next day. So, seems like the worst time for them to give birth because it's cold out there. But you know what? It was great. So, anyways, I'm going to talk about some different things today. First of all, let's talk about digestion. So, digestion today, people, you spend time making good choices for food. But do you digest that food? Can you digest that? Because sometimes, especially when people get older and they say, you know what, I'm going to make some changes, and I've decided to really change my diet. But a lot of times as they get older, their digestion has gone down, and it's almost as if they try to make some changes and they go, it's not making any difference. I don't really feel any different. Well, many times it's because of poor digestion. You cannot digest the food because of the lack of digestive enzymes. Especially poor eating the regular standard American diet, the SAD diet, over a period of time exhausts our hydrochloric acid. It exhausts our ability to produce enzymes, in particular, all the enzymes to digest protein, to digest carbohydrates. A lot of times people develop a lactose intolerance, meaning they can't digest the dairy, but that's maybe if you were able to digest it when you were a child, but yet now you can't. Well, what's the difference? It's the lack of enzymes. Well, the good thing is that you can provide the enzymes. You can take the enzymes inside you basically take them as a capsule with your food. The recommended thing to do is first of all, we'll start with the enzymes. Now, enzymes are produced in your liver, enzymes are produced in your pancreas, they're produced in your spleen, they're produced directly in your intestines, in your stomach. We have a whole host of different enzymes. Your liver produces the bile, which gets stored into the gallbladder, and the gallbladder releases the bile in order to digest fats. Essentially, bile is like soap. I like to say if you're going to wash, let's say, oily lasagna dishes, if you just use hot water, you're just spreading the oil around. Nothing happens, and you don't get rid of that oil. Well, you use soap. Well, that's what bile is, and that's what the gallbladder does, is it stores the bile. Again, if you want to call into the show, the number is 313-272-5600. So normal digestion is when we eat food, you chew it up, your body secretes the saliva inside your mouth. And in fact, usually we secrete saliva even before we eat food, which is we smell food or we think about food. We're getting ready for food and our stomach starts rumbling and things like that. It's preparing ourselves for digestion, secreting, basically squirting all the soap and all the different things for the car wash, right? So you chew the food up and then it goes into your stomach, and your stomach secretes the hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid is the thing that comes out of those acid pumps. We've seen those commercials where if you have acid indigestion, boy, you want to turn those acid pumps off or neutralize an acid with a base that would be like a Tums or something like that, like a calcium. Well, it gives you temporary relief, but now that food that you have reduced the digestive capacity even more so, it starts to rot in your gut and it starts to create an immune stress. It starts to just basically create havoc all throughout your body. But more importantly is you're not getting the nutrients. The nutrients are not, because many of the nutrients have to be broken down, and they have to be broken down with the hydrochloric acid and then other enzymes. Now, after our body has churned with the stomach where it squirted some acid in it, if there's any fats in it, then your stomach detects that, and right below the stomach is what's called the duodenum, and that's right where the gallbladder connects to. And if there's any fat in there, the body will squirt some bile to mix with the what's called chyme, where it's the chewed up food that's mixed with the digestive acids. Right? Well, now we mix it with some bile, and then now that's like basically doing laundry, and it mixes the soap all around so that you get all of the oils in particular to go from big globules to small little globules. Now, as it goes through our intestines, there's a whole bunch of other little pumps that get secreted in there, and basically it adds to this food so that different mechanisms and different parts of the food can get digested, because there's different constituents of that food. There are carbohydrates, there are simple carbohydrates, there are complex carbohydrates, is fat, and then there is protein. Well, so that's when we get into taking, for instance, the digest and the digestase SP, which is, there's some crossover with those, which they're two different formulas, but they have some of the same exact ones. But the big ones that they have is that they have amylase and digestase and protease and lipase and invertase and cellulase. And then when we get into the SP, which is there's peptidase, serrapeptidase, hemiculase, beta-glucanase, a whole bunch of different types of enzymes. Now, the digest is just kind of regular support. The digest SP is super support, meaning it helps you to really, really digest things even better, and it actually acts like an immune system. And so the recommended thing is whether you have bad digestion or not, it really is actually helpful to support yourself with these enzymes. Let's say you don't need it, but you take it anyways. Well, then that means that your body won't use your enzymes, and you'll spare your enzymes, because the body looks at the food inside there and goes, oh, I guess you got it. Well, I guess I can go home and go take a rest. So it basically spares your enzymes. So the rule of thumb is you eat some food, and in the middle of the food you take 2 of the digest, and I also recommend actually taking 2 of the digest SP, just so that you get a ton of these enzymes. And then after the food, at the end of the meal, then you take the hydrochloric acid. An average person you're taking anywhere from 2 to 4 of the HCl per meal. 2 of the digest and 2 of the digest SP. Boy, oh boy, if you were to take these things, even if you were, let's say, a teenager, wow, you are digesting like a super champ. And again, it spares your enzymes. And so now this, in particular, as you get older, when you say, I'm really going to spend some good money on these foods. I used to shop at, wherever this place, was, and now I'm going to shop at the better food market, or even better, I'm going to go to the farm market, or I'll even grow my own stuff. Great, okay, but what happens if you can't digest it? You're kind of wasting it. So taking the enzymes with your food helps to be sure that the money that you spent and the time and the effort and your intentions go right to where you intend them to be. So that's a great thing to do on digestion is the 2 of the digest, 2 digest SP, that's mid-meal, and then anywhere between 2 to 4 HCl at the end of the meal. Now, there's another neat thing that you can do with the HCl. Now, this depends upon if your stomach can handle it. If you have a person that says where they take the hydrochloric acid and it burns their stomach, they cannot do this one. And if the hydrochloric acid burns your stomach, then you drink a little extra water with that. And if it still doesn't cut it, then you're going to have to do the stomach tea, which is you take the Gastroven and you open 2 capsules and you put it into water at a high boil and you steep it for about 10 minutes and you drink it about 20 minutes before you're going to take the HCl. That can be done temporarily until you have time to actually have the mud packs done where you can restore that so you don't have to take that. But people that have, for instance, the ulcers have been related to an infection what's called H. pylori. H. pylori is this bacterial infection that what it does is it literally eats away at the lining of your stomach, the protective lining, so that your acids that are being secreted, or if you take the hydrochloric acid, they're being secreted, then it doesn't actually touch your stomach skin, your stomach tissue. It touches that membrane first, and so it can't get to you. Well, let's say you've done that, and now you can take the HCl with a meal, and it's great, and it doesn't bother you, and in fact, it feels really good, and you can tell. Well, there's another trick you can do. You can take HCl on an empty stomach. Now, I've had a number of questions with this, and even from, medical school, people go, wait a minute, that will dissolve a nail. You're not supposed to have HCl. It'll eat you. Your stomach makes the HCl. So having HCl in your stomach, even as an empty stomach, if you're healthy and you have that repaired lining and an intact lining, then it doesn't bother you at all. Well, the idea is to take HCl in an empty stomach to go after infection, because it will get into the bloodstream, and if it's not digesting food, it will go into your body and it will scavenge throughout the body. And in particular, going after some of the really things that we notice with aging, which is dental infection and gingivitis, which is people lose their teeth because they get the gingivitis. And gingivitis is one of the leading causes of heart disease. This is, in the last 20 years, this is one of the newest kind of discovery is well, where do heart attacks come from? Where do people, have these real bad heart conditions? Well, a lot of it is coming from, if you have, let's say, gingivitis, or you have gum disease. And what's gum disease? Your gums bleed when you floss your teeth. When you go to the dentist and they measure the pockets, and you have a pocket anything more than a 2 or a 3 or up to a 4, or these are pockets, meaning the bacteria have gotten in there underneath the teeth, inside the gum, and they've eaten away at the bone. So people lose their teeth, or for instance, when people say get long in the tooth, meaning when they're getting older, it's not that the gums are receding or receding gums. The gums are receding because the bone is deteriorating. The bone is dissolving, eroding away. And the number one reason why the bone is eroding away is because these bacteria produce an acid that dissolves the bone. And it's like the shoreline is just eroding away. So I did a video. You can go to my YouTube channel, Jason Eagle QRA, and I did a video that's on wrinkles, especially facial wrinkles. And what you will see is when people get the crow's feet around their eyes and they get the smile lines and things like that, it's not necessarily the sagging skin. What it really is, the largest part of it is it's the loss of bone. The bone is eroding away. And one of the top things that's eroding the bone away, especially in the face, is dental infection or gum disease. So, getting good dental hygiene, that's helpful. But, you cannot floss that stuff away. Getting like a water pick where you put saline solution, like water and salt. There's some other things that you can do. Xylitol you can put in that, but still that's not even good enough because it's coming also from the inside out. So the best thing to do is if you could take something inside your body that could seep through your bones and kill that infection and tighten the gum up and then protect your heart and a whole bunch of other stuff. That's with the hydrochloric acid if you take it on an empty stomach, if you're able to tolerate that. And so it's a real goal to be able to repair the digestive system and repair the stomach so that not only can I take the hydrochloric acid to digest my food better, but then I can get up and get an iron stomach so that now I can take the HCl maybe 3-4 days a week on an empty stomach. And now you'll see that, oh my goodness, it's one of the greatest things you can do for the teeth. It's one of the greatest things that you can do for the bones. It's one of the greatest things that you can do for just general immune stress because it kills infection. Your body kills it uses your immune system. And part of your immune system is especially to repair bone damage is hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid is not just for taking when you're eating food. It's also a great trick and a tool to use in order to stimulate healing inside your body. Deep, deep healing. It's Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. If you want to call into the show, the number is 313-272-5600. You want to see me on my Facebook page. It is Strategic Healing, and I'm live on Facebook right now. And I'm going to take a commercial, and I'll be right back.
How long have you been struggling with your health issues? Are you still living in pain? What kind of skin irritations do you have? Eczema, rashes, acne? Is your energy level in the basement? Are you trying to cope with depression or anxiety? Is your tummy always upset? If your body could talk to you, what would it tell you? Well, it does talk to you. It's the listening part that's tricky. But not with the amazing biocommunication technique, QRA, quantum reflex analysis, the highly effective system by which your body can communicate its true needs. Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing in Auburn Hills is your natural health authority, and he is the expert in using QRA to get to the root of your health issues, then develop the plan to get you back to feeling great again. Find out what's really happening with your body with your in-depth QRA evaluation with Jason Eagle. Call 734-985-5891 for Jason at Strategic Healing in Auburn Hills. It'll change your life for the better. Call 734-985-5891 today.
Okay. All right, everybody. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. If you want to call into the show, the number is 313-272-5600. And today we're going to talk about stuffed nose. What do you do about a stuffed nose other than just blow your nose? Well, sometimes you get a stuffed up nose that's so stuffed you can't blow it. Nothing comes out and you can't breathe, and then people will take nasal decongestants and then you can do nasal sprays, and those are harmful. They don't really work. It maybe works for a little bit, but then it clamps down even worse. And, you know, when your body creates this mucus, especially as when you get a cold or something like that, this mucus is designed to grab onto the thing that is making you sick, and whether it be a virus or pollen or mold or something like that, it's designed to grab it and then get out of the body. It either gets out of the body, well, it either goes into, either we swallow it, which is you kind of snuff your nose up and you swallow it. Well, then it goes down into your stomach, and if you got enough hydrochloric acid, then it's going to be killed. Or it's designed for it to flow and blow, right? But sometimes we get a point where we're miserable and it's stuffed and it's plugged and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, and as I said, we can take these over-the-counter drugs or even prescription things, and they're not good. They, you know, one of the things too is like with the nasal sprays, like the Afrin and stuff like that. What they do is, yes, they dilate those vessels and they open things up. But what they also do is they kill your own microbiome, because when we talk about probiotics is supposed to be throughout your whole body, but in particular, your mouth, your nose, your throat, all the way down to your stomach is all connected in one, your ears, it's all connected in one tube. It's all one tube. And so what goes up comes down, and what comes down goes up. It's transmigrates and goes back and forth. So we all know kind of about taking probiotics in terms of for the gut. But what about probiotics for your nose, probiotics for your mouth, probiotics for your throat, probiotics for your eyes? Yes, because let's say even your tear ducts, those are glands that when it helps to moisten your eyes, but then, when you get dust, it makes it get teary to kind of carry that stuff out. Or when you cry, okay? Well, those tear ducts are glands, and glands are designed to also have living organisms inside them. It's called probiotics. It's supposed to be a great ecology. All of these glands, especially the glands that are around the nose and the face and the mouth. We've got the parotid gland. We've got the salivary gland. We got what's called sublingual glands. All of these things. So like when you go to salivate, that's a probiotic. So when we then when we salivate because we're getting hungry and we're chewing food, we are secreting your own probiotic juices, those are digestive juices. So let's go back again to the nose. Is when you do some of these nasal sprays, what it does is it kills those good bacteria. It's like an antibiotic, and so it may give you relief now, but it's going to set you up for having this chronic for the rest of your life. And we could have where people have chronic, say, all kinds of lung infections and things like that, that really come from because they've killed this ecology. And so how do we, number one, support that ecology? Xylitol. So there's a company that is called Xylir, and they make this nasal spray, and it's just saline solution with xylitol, and you squirt it up into your nose. It doesn't work like a nasal decongestant. That's not the point. It helps to moisten because sometimes when you're blowing your nose becomes raw. So it helps to kind of moisten that. It's very helpful. But xylitol is one of the 8 healing sugars. So that's why a lot of xylitol is in gum, like the sugar-free gum, the good healthy stuff that you get at the health food store. It's also in a lot of toothpaste, because we know that xylitol kills what's called the caries dental, meaning the thing that makes your rotted teeth. This kills that. Because the reason that we're getting the rotted teeth for cavities is because we have a dysbiosis, meaning we have too many of the bad guys and not enough of the good guys. So rather than going ahead and just fighting and killing all the bad guys, why don't we just support the good guys? Why don't we support the weak ones, the very delicate ones? And that's the probiotics. So xylitol or Xylir can be taken as a nasal spray, and that you can do it for like 2 squirts in each nostril 4 times a day, and that will help. But then there's another thing, which is if your nose gets really stuffed, you can take what's called N-acetylcysteine. It's these capsules, and you take between 2 to 4 of them, maybe a couple times a day. And what it does is it takes a blocked nose and suddenly it unplugs it. So it's like a faucet hose. Now some people go, but I don't want that. I don't want any of that. No, you do want that. You want to clean it out. You know, your body's doing natural processes, and we don't want to interfere these things, because if you do, maybe you look pretty and maybe you don't, you don't have a stuffy up nose or a drippy nose, but you'll get sicker later, and you'll get sicker for a longer amount of time. If you stop your body from doing what it's supposed to do, it's not a good idea. So really, it's best to kind of get through it and get over it, but then let your body do what it's supposed to do. So NAC is a great thing to help to take to unstuff the nose. NAC is another thing that helps for, and I think I talked about it on the show before, but it's a really good liver detoxifier. It helps to heal the liver. And so a great thing that NAC is used for too is let's say you're a person who's had alcohol problem. Let's say you've been a drinker and now you've decided you don't want to be a drinker, but you drank for a long time, and you've caused some damage to the liver, or we get a fatty liver. There's other conditions that can cause a fatty liver. NAC is one of the great things to help to rebuild the liver. It helps to heal the liver, and the liver is one of the fastest healing organs in the body. I talked about the lungs. The lungs and the liver are very, very fast healers. If you give them the condition to heal, they will heal. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. The number to call in is 313-272-5600. And now I'm going to take a question on this thing called intermittent fasting. Many people have heard about that, and many people do it. I've been doing intermittent fasting for years, and it's about, number one, it's about getting good, healthy weight. So it's one of the real tools for people who, let's say, want to be at a healthy weight, help to lose weight, help to maintain weight. But why does it do that? Because what it instills is what's called insulin response. Because anytime we have a weight issue, or what's one of the other things, let's say you're not worried about your weight, but you have pain, you have inflammation, you have inflammatory conditions in your body, arthritis in your knees, arthritis in your fingers or elbows, leaky gut, bowel problems, these types of things where it's pain, back pain from inflammation, disc problems, neck pain from inflammation. How do we heal inflammation? You get underneath it, because all inflammation is supported by what's called insulin resistance. So now we get into the other issue in terms of, let's say, people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic, that's insulin resistance. Your cells will no longer uptake insulin. So it's the insulin secreted, but the cells go, nope, I'm not taking it. So one of the great tools, so most pre-diabetes, diabetes, let's say type 2 diabetes, can be healed, can be cured, completely cured, where people are like, I don't have it anymore. And I've done this with many, many people. And one of the great secrets is what's called intermittent fasting. So fasting, what is fasting? Well, first of all, it's sleeping, because you're not eating while you're sleeping. And so while you're sleeping, your body is running processes. Yeah, your digestive system shuts down and your body kind of goes into kind of a low mode, but your heart still has to pump. There's all kinds of muscles that have to move. Your brain has to work, all kinds of things. So energy is needed. And so your body is feeding off of stored energy while you're fasting. Okay, so intermittent fasting is taking the number of time from when you last ate, which is dinner. So let's say you finished eating at 7, right? And then we count, and some of the best intermittent fasting is anywhere between 16 to 20 hours. So let's say 16 to 18 hours of fasting. And people go, wow, that's a lot of time. Well, most times if you stopped eating at 7 and let's say you get up and you don't eat breakfast until 9 or something like that, that's over 12 hours right there. You got over 12 hours in sleeping. So what that really means is, for most people, if you want to do intermittent fasting, it means either skip breakfast or just extend your breakfast out. Maybe have your breakfast at, let's say, 11:30. Okay, or something like that. So, if you count from when you last ate to when you break your fast. Breakfast doesn't mean morning. It just means when you break your fast. Most days I don't eat until, let's say, 1 o'clock, sometimes even 2. I can go like 21 hours of fasting, and I've been doing this for years. And what it does, and people go, well, I'm going to get dizzy. And if you've got low blood sugar, you've got to watch that and things like that. You got to be careful about it. But most people, you can add and start with an hour. If you were normally used to doing, let's say, eating breakfast at, say, 8 o'clock, wait until 9. And then next week, wait until 10. And you'll find what it does is, when your body is not digesting food or using food as energy, it uses your body. And it will, first of all, eat up what's called glycogen reserves, which are stored in your liver and in your muscles. Okay, so your body's designed for this. Your body's designed to, oh crap, an earthquake would happen and we need to get on the run, and we need to run for a couple days without food because, listen, they're after us, or, so we are not designed to die without food. And in fact, I think it was 2017, Nobel Peace Prize for Medicine was done on a study on autophagy, which is eating your own body, fasting. And what it was found, and if you go back, and many people have heard many studies about like rats, which is reducing caloric intake. If you feed rats a lot of sugar, they get really fat and they die quickly. Whereas if you take rats or mice or people and you reduce their calories, meaning you do fasting, you go through periods of starvation. And I'm not talking about starving for days. We're just talking for a couple hours. What happens is the body then uses and it eats up like I said, glycogen reserves. But then after the glycogen reserves are done, then it will start going after deposition. It won't eat your muscles. People go, I'm going to start eating my muscles. That's only when you get into real extreme cases. The first thing what it will do is it will go after nonsense. So it will go after scar tissue. It will go after adhesions. It will go after the things that are causing pain. But in the meantime, what it's doing is it's training your cells it's like sending your bratty cells to boot camp. So think about insulin resistance like this, insulin response like this. You got 2 children at Walmart, right? And they're both sitting in the cart, in the little cart carrier. And one kid is just being a brat and screaming and saying, I want this. And the mom is saying, stop, stop, stop. And it won't stop. And everyone just annoying everybody. And then the kid looks at everyone else around it and sees that everyone's like frowning at it. And so the kid thinks that this is a bad world, but it cannot understand that it's its response. Whereas there's the good little kid that, yes, mommy, no, mommy, and stop that, and immediately it does. And then it gets a treat, and it gets so responding, a quick response. Now, some people will say, well, that's just a goody two-shoes. No, the world works better. I'm using this as an analogy as your cells, when sugar goes into it, if it's not actively working out, if you're not in the middle of running and you just ate some sugar, if you're not running, then the sugar stays in the blood cell, and insulin has to go in to pull it out. But if your cells are resistant to the insulin, it will hold on to the sugar for too long. And a cell, anything above 100 for a period of time, causes damage to the cell. It actually causes the cell to be a perfect breeding ground for what's called nanobacteria infection. Little bacteria that live in the blood cells. And those are the ones that are scraping at the insides that are causing you to secrete the cholesterol deposits that clog up the heart or clog up the brain and things like that. So most of it is sugar. It's the sugar response. And so basically, if you took that bratty kid and you sent it out to Arizona to some boot camp where they were, let them deal with it. They come back a couple weeks later and they go, yes, sir, no, sir. And we're not talking about brain control. We're just talking about how is the world going to best respond to you, and how are you going to best respond to the world. And a blood cell should respond to insulin, and it should respond quickly. If you take so people say, well, my blood sugar's too high, right? Blood sugar's the bad problem, sugar's the problem. No, it's the response to sugar. So you can take, like, say, a healthy child and give them Halloween candy and test their blood sugar an hour, like 15 minutes to an hour later, and their blood sugar can be all the way up to like 500, can be super high. But test them, let's say, an hour later, and it's down to like 120, and then test them like an hour and a half later, and now it's down to like 98. That's a very great response. So it's kind of like speeding up really fast, but very quickly getting into the cruise control zone. Cruise control zone is anywhere below 100. Your cells have received the insulin. And so it's about the response to insulin. So intermittent fasting trains your cells, every cell of your body, to recognize what it used to be like when it responded well to insulin. And it says, I like the way that I feel at this. And again, it starts to eat at deposition. It reduces pain, because without the blood sugar being too high and without insulin resistance, we don't have as much pain. So intermittent fasting is not just a great way to lose some weight. It is a great way to age well. It's a great way to extend your life. It's a great way to be smarter. It's a great way to be happier. It's a great way to feel better. So I recommend people start trying what's called intermittent fasting, which is, again, it's as simple as I don't fast. Yes, you are. If you're sleeping, you're fasting. So just keep extending the hours out past getting up from being awake. Now I don't want to do anything. You can do black coffee or tea that's non-caloric. Start with water. Start with a great big glass of water, like 2, let's say between 16 to 24 ounces of water on an empty stomach when you get up. You don't have to guzzle it down, but just within that hour, drink it and make sure it goes down. Not the orange juice, not milk, not anything that's caloric. Don't drink the coffee that has any milk or creamer or sugar or anything like that. You want nothing with calories. You can do hot water with some lemon. That is really good for your liver, and it's a little bit of vitamin C. You can do hot water and apple cider vinegar and a little bit of salt and a little bit of cayenne pepper. That is a stimulative for the whole, that actually helps your blood sugar work better. You can put a little cinnamon in there, cinnamon in the hot water, or some cinnamon in the black coffee. especially what's called Vietnamese cinnamon. This will help if you have blood sugar issues. This will start fixing your blood sugar. The cinnamon's good, but I'm telling you, it's the intermittent fasting, taking your cells to boot camp and saying, this is what it's used to be like when you responded well, when you listened and responded quickly. You will feel better for it. So intermittent fasting is a great tool. Again, if you got any questions on these things, you can contact me. My number is 734-985-5891. You can go to my website, which is strategichealing.us. If you want to call into the show right now, this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. The number is 313-272-5600. And I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back.
How long have you been struggling with your health issues? Are you still living in pain? What kind of skin irritations do you have? Eczema, rashes, acne? Is your energy level in the basement? Are you trying to cope with depression or anxiety? Is your tummy always upset? If your body could talk to you, what would it tell you? Well, it does talk to you. It's the listening part that's tricky. But not with the amazing biocommunication technique, QRA, quantum reflex analysis, the highly effective system by which your body can communicate its true needs. Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing in Auburn Hills is your natural health authority, and he is the expert in using QRA to get to the root of your health issues, then develop the plan to get you back to feeling great again. Find out what's really happening with your body with your in-depth QRA evaluation with Jason Eagle. Call 734-985-5891 for your appointment with Jason at Strategic Healing in Auburn Hills. It'll change your life for the better. Call 734-985-5891 today.
Okay. Hi there, everybody. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. The number to call in is 313-272-5600. And I just heard what I'm going to talk about again now, which is acne. Okay. I had acne really bad when I was a teenager. And in fact, I started, for a while they called me pizza face. It was really, and I'm very lucky because I don't have any of the pock marks. I don't have any of the scars. A lot of people, I had really bad, I had cystic acne. And I got acne, I think it was like 6th grade. You know, most people didn't get it until like they were in high school. I started to get it like 6th, 7th grade. And then when I get into like my first, it wasn't until probably my freshman year of college that it really went away. But what is acne? Acne is, first of all, it's related to the gut. It is absolutely related to the gut. First of all, it's an infection, but it's an infection from, like they say, if they show the commercial, it's like dirt gets inside the pore and then that starts to form an infection. And then that sends the white blood cells, that's what the pus is and all this other stuff. And well, let's start with, where does it start? It starts in the gut. It starts with a dysbiosis in the gut. And most teenagers, where it starts, if you'll start to notice it, it's when they started eating their own food, when they got some money and they were able to eat the candy that they wanted. Maybe it was when they got their first job, or it's something like that. It's their system. It's also the hormones, because their gut changes, and as children then ages into adolescent and grow bigger, their guts change, and they need to eat more adult food. And so what's the biggest thing about adult foods? It's vegetables, right? Just like, kids don't want to eat the vegetables, and then once we develop a palate, many kids are what's called super tasters, which is they don't like the broccoli and they don't like some of those other things because it really tastes horrible to them. And you'll notice that as people get older, their tastes change, and then they can tolerate some things better. So I'm not saying little kids have to eat broccoli, although it's best to start changing their palate as soon as possible. Basically bring it into them when they're really young and keep it in. But it's the vegetable matter. They don't have, so again, you'll notice kids too, when they get into, let's say, junior high, or they get into, and this is especially true for boys too, which is they don't like to poop at school. They will hold their poop until they get home because they're embarrassed about it. Girls are a little bit, because girls sit down on the toilet, and so there's always the opportunity to go poop, whereas more boys stand up to urinate, and so there's not as many opportunities, and then there's often, so what that means is that if we hold on to the bowels. If we hold on to fecal matter and it stays, then the bloodstream has to circulate through it, and that's a toxin, and that can go. And so it's trying to get out of the body. These toxins are trying to get out of the body, as well as these toxins that sit in the gut, especially in the lower bowel. They will start to infect the bloodstream. They'll infect the body because it's a breeding ground for all these things. So number one, it's the food, eating too much sugar, not eating enough vegetables, not eating enough fiber. But even if they do eat enough fiber, it's their bowels change and they don't poop as often. And so, that would be a great thing to help them with, is basically say, find a good bathroom, or don't worry about it. Just do it. If you want your acne to go away, then go to the bathroom. That's a big thing. If you want your acne to go away, then you need to cut down on the sugar. If you want your acne to go away, then you really need to eat more vegetables. And, kids these days the younger they are getting smarter. Kids are getting smarter. So because of the internet and things like that, kids are more informed than they used to be. Most people did not know about these things and didn't even have the mentality to understand these things and take the responsibility of it until they were in their late teens and the early 20s. Now kids are actually developing, and they can understand this, and they can take the responsibility. And if you explain it to them that, like, you're hurting yourself by this, and I can't, do it all for you. You have to do it for yourself. Okay, then we get into, for instance, it's a dysbiosis, meaning too many, so the antibiotics that they have taken. Now, a lot of the skin cleansers that we put on the skin are antibiotics. And not only so the whole idea is to kill that infection there. It doesn't really do it. And, maybe topically you can notice a difference. So like the retinol A and stuff like that. But what can happen is it can destroy the gut ecology later. And you can set up people for a whole host of all kinds of things that happen to that. We don't even know what they do yet. We have no idea. But what we do know is it's kind of like putting napalm in the system, and that's not good. So there are some natural antibiotic things that work, which is garlic, alicidin. When I've treated some really tough cases, especially this one girl that actually is a model now, and she was very, very pretty and was developing a modeling career, but had to wear a ton of makeup, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And she moved out to LA, and now she's moved back from LA because it's a horrible scene out there. But she had really, really bad acne. And what it was is everything that I'm talking about. It started in the gut. So alicidin, that's the garlic, taking good amounts. Put her on hydrochloric acid, making sure that she digests your foods, make sure that he is able to digest it, okay? Then we can also there's another antibiotic, natural antibiotic, which is called propolis. Propolis is bees. So when bees, I'm also a beekeeper, and when the bees make their nests, or let's say we put them in boxes and then we put the hives, they glue their boxes together with this gummy material called propolis. Now, it's a glue that kind of holds everything together. They produce it in their body. They go out and they eat saps and stuff like that, and then they secrete this stuff out, and they spit it out and they glue it. Well, like bee honey, they add their own immune system to it. So it's an antibiotic. It literally kills. And why? Because it glues it glues their hive together, and it keeps infection from getting in there, because sugar is also a great thing that all kinds of bugs want to grow into. So they have to infuse an immune system into every part of their hive. And so propolis is something that you can put it in a capsule and you can take it internally. And it acts, and one of the things that propolis has been shown to is it's really good for skin infections, meaning acne, eczema, these types of things, psoriasis, these types of things. Propolis is, again, it's a natural product, and it comes from beehives. If we take it internally, it's like, when they say if you have bad allergies, eat local honey. Let's say you are allergic to pollens and molds and stuff like that. Well, the bees that make it in the area, they are infusing an immune system to be able to know what to do about that. So instead of taking allergy shots, we can take bee honey. And instead of taking, there's other anti-infectives, we can take the propolis. That's really good for the skin. Now, one of the other things is you'll notice that the skin gets really oily, like around their forehead, and their hair gets very greasy and stuff like that. It's because their digestive system is changing and they're not eating enough of the right oils. They eat too much pizza, they eat too much of this junk, they eat too much of these bad oils like the hydrogenated oils or just the really cheap canola oil that all the restaurants use and stuff like that. Well, that will start to clog your body up and it will clog up the sebaceous glands. So really, if you've got really oily skin that is then forming the acne, they need an oil change. They need more DHA. So taking DHA as a capsule form or a fish oil or something like that, eating coconut oil, making fat bombs for them. Fat bombs are these great things where you can take coconut oil and mix it with some, let's say, peanut butter or nut butter or something like that, or mix it with some nuts and a little bit of honey and then put them in the refrigerator and then they become like little bonbons and they're just like eating straight coconut fat and they taste really good. There's all kinds of great recipes for fat bombs. That's what I would put kids with acne on. Put them on lots of fat. Make sure they get a lot of fat. Make sure they eat avocados and things like that, right? Now, there's one of the other things that we know of a messed up ecology is children that were not breastfed. So even though these kids are more and more intelligent, knowing how to work the internet and things like that, we have higher levels of those that are not breastfed. There's many women who don't understand that you are giving your immune system. So the very first immune system that a child has is, number one, coming through the normal birth canal. That goes on their skin and it goes into their mouth. And the very second one is colostrum. And colostrum is this it's an immune system. Basically it's a stand-in immune system for the body. Well, many people that are breastfed or not breastfed and they are put on, let's say, formula and things like that. That's why they're trying to fix this by putting DHA in the stuff, but it's all soybean junk and it's junk. And so many kids are behind the 8 ball inside their internal intestines because they just don't have the right probiotics. So not being breastfed sets you up for, a lot of times you'll see this acne and stuff like that. So going on probiotics, going on what's called noni fruit, we can take that. These help to restore the probiotics of the gut. And then, putting on these cleansers and things like that. I recommend washing with a good pure soap, right? Like a Castile soap, like a Dr. Bronner soap, or an Ivory soap with like no perfumes and stuff like that, or a Dove or something like that, and then don't touch it. There's this tendency to touch it. Well, you're getting it dirty. Just don't touch it. Leave it alone. If you can put anything on it, you can put something that will dry it out and draw it, and that's the Mediclay. Mediclay is a bentonite clay. You can open the capsules and mix a little bit of water, mix it into a paste, and have them dab it on it and put it on these spots. You can even dab it on it, and then like when your dad cut himself and he puts little pieces of tissue paper, you can put some Mediclay, a poultice on there, and then put a little bit of the toilet paper on it, just a little piece on it, and then it acts like a little Band-Aid, and then go to sleep like that. And what it will do is it will draw this out. I've done this for boils. I've done this for if you ever have, let's say, a splinter. This will pull a splinter out. Another thing you can actually, on a really bad cystic ones, like the really big ones that don't even come to a head and they hurt a lot, you can cut off a little piece of an onion, and do it at nighttime so that they don't smell like onion, all right? So, and let just a little sliver of an onion and tape it right onto where these big cystic, or a boil, and you'll wake up in the morning and it will come to a head and it will draw it out, and it will literally then close back up, because the onion has allicin in it. Garlic and onion have allicin, which is it kills the bacteria, but it also has this drawing effect. All right, so, and then one of the other things, one of the deep things is when you've got chronic acne, people who have had this acne for years, it's a zinc deficiency. A zinc deficiency has often been shown as zinc in the gut. Okay, so you can take zinc lozenges, you can take the zinc assay, which we have here, which is it's this liquid and you just pour it into your mouth and it tastes like water until you need it and don't need it. And when you don't need it, it tastes horrible. But zinc is one of the underlying causes of a zinc deficiency of real chronic acne problems. All right, we're going to go to our next question. Which one? This one is on hemorrhoids, and in particular on internal hemorrhoids, right? Again, this all goes to the gut. Like, there's a theme in all of these shows, and today's show is it's infection. And then there's some other conditions that also cause hemorrhoids. But let me start with this, which is a dysbiosis, because hemorrhoids are basically a bulbing out of the internal tissue, whether it be the rectal tissue or the anal tissue, which is it's like a blister. It's a blood blister that kind of pops out. And then the external hemorrhoids is they pop out and they don't get sucked back in. So they kind of hang outside. Well, and then the internal hemorrhoids is you can't see those, but if you were to put a scope in there, you would see the same type of things happening inside the rectum. They're caused by the same thing. Number one, an infection, meaning, so the allocidin is really good for that. The propolis is really good for that. Number two is it's the type of food that you're eating. Too much processed food, too much wheat, too much sugar, dehydration. The external hemorrhoids is often caused by people straining because their poops are too hard because they're too dehydrated. They don't drink enough water. They don't sleep well enough, so their adrenals are messed up, which means then it makes their internal organs dry out, and which then will make the stool too dry. And so that's hard to push out, which will then basically kind of like a blown tire, right? Like a bulge in the tire. That's when an external hemorrhoid is. Internal hemorrhoids are similar. Internal hemorrhoids are a little bit more guide towards that there's infection there, meaning there's these bacteria and things that are infecting that intestinal wall or the rectal wall. So, like I said, the allocidin is really good for that. Cutting down the sugar, cutting down on the refined foods, eating more vegetables, eating more, let's say, broccoli and cabbage and these things, the cruciferous vegetables, eating those types of things, basically, and not raw so much, eating more cooked vegetables. So let's say cooked squash and zucchini, and there's all kinds of just a whole plethora of cooked vegetables that people need to eat more of, and that means that they're the fiber's there, and it's good, healthy fiber. A probiotic is something that a person can take because it helps to restore the normal gut ecology. Now, there's another thing that can cause both internal and external hemorrhoids, which is back injuries. If we have a back injury, let's say you hurt your back, let's say you fell on your tailbone, ice skating or something like that, or you hurt your back lifting or something like that. What happens is the nerves are not working correctly, and so as the tissue goes out, it doesn't get sucked back in because the muscle, so it's like a prolapse. So there's a very similarity between, let's say, a prolapse colon or a prolapse uterus and also like hemorrhoids. So it's the nerve that's not working correctly. And for that's where the mud packs can come in, because you can help, and then also some chiropractic care and a movement and things like that, because you can wake those nerves back up and get them moving again. The mud packs helps to restore the nerve damage. It's the electromagnetic field that gets damaged, or what's called the interference field. If you've gotten bad enough back trauma and it gets stuck in the first phase of healing but doesn't fix the healing, doesn't heal all the way, that's an interference field, which means it's kind of like a paralyzed, meaning, I always use this, grandma has a stroke and one side of her face is she can't smile. That's paralyzed. And you say, try harder, grandma. She can't. It's paralyzed. So a hemorrhoid is oftentimes the same thing, but you're paralyzed at the central core. And where is that? That's in the sacrum, that's in the low back, that's in the coccyx or the tailbone. And so these injuries can be repaired, and then what will happen is you'll see them disappear, and then they'll go back up inside, and then they'll disappear. So internal and external hemorrhoids, they're related. The internal ones have more of, let's say, an infections quality. Say that again? Okay, all right. Yeah, I thought he said we had a caller. We got 4 more minutes left. So this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, and we're going to talk about, let's see, what are we going to, Tranquinol. Okay, Tranquinol. This is this product that Premier Research Labs make. It helps you to fall asleep. Okay, so let's say you have a person that is, your mind is spinning and you just can't, you lay awake and you can't fall asleep. Tranquinol is helpful for that. Like 2 or 3 of those, like an hour before you fall asleep, it really helps to fall asleep. However, it can also be used as like an anti-anxiety. So instead of like a Xanax, or instead of like the Ambien helps you fall asleep, or a Xanax like for if you got anxiety, you can take these during the middle of the day and they're not going to knock you out. They're not going to make you drowsy. They're not going to make you loopy. What it does is it help, and these are natural. So it's some flowers, it's some minerals, it's these other things that help to fix what does is it turns down your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, because most times anxiety or the inability to fall asleep is because you're stuck in sympathetic dominance. And when we fall asleep, you really should be in what's called parasympathetic dominance, which is, that's the other side of your nervous system, which is, that's the chill, that's the ooh, that's the nice, that's the cat purring. That is the Zen, right? That is the kind of meditation. Your whole system is supposed to do that. And when it's nighttime, that's supposed to turn on. So what the Tranquinol does is it helps to unscramble the neurotransmitters of your nervous system that gets stuck like this. So, but it could also be used, let's say, like I say, during the day. Let's say a person is going to do something that they're anxious about. Let's say go to a dental appointment. Let's say you hate going to the dentist and you've avoided the dentist. You can take some Tranquinol the night before and then take some in the morning and then take some right before you go to that appointment. Let's say 3 or 4 of them right before the appointment. And you find that, whoa, wow, I've had so many people that have used this, not only, like I said, to fall asleep, but also used it for anxiety, like an anti-anxiety medication. But these are natural herbs and foods that helps to retrain your neurologic system and says, this is how you used to be, or maybe you never were, and this is what helps to restore you back. Here's another tool of what Tranquinol can be used for, is people who have an opioid addiction, have been stuck taking tramadol, or been stuck taking, Percocet, or any of these opioids, right? And they're addicted to them. They're stuck to them. Well, how do you get off of them? They're dangerous to just, you don't do cold turkey. They can be very, very dangerous. So you've got to slowly. So what we do is we use Tranquinol in any of the anti-anxiety medications too, or the SSRIs or something like that. So you take Tranquinol with it. You can take it to fall asleep, but you can also take it a little bit, 1 or 2 during the day, and it will help you to start to titrate off of it and get off of that cliff so that you now are not addicted to these things and it's not such a struggle. It's easier to do. So this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, and this is another one for the books, another episode here, and I look forward to hearing from you, and I will see you next week. So again, Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. Until next time, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ask the Experts with Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing. Jason will help you live a pain-free, high-energy, healthier life naturally.
Say that again.